Jah Cure's lawyer has also appealed the attempted manslaughter conviction.
When you think your bad day can't get worse, imagine being Jah Cure, one of reggae's biggest voices. Finding out prosecutors want to add 9 more years to your sentence. Yeah, that's what's happening right now. In this video, we're breaking down how Jah Cure went from soulful hits to serious court drama, why the prosecutors are pushing for a longer sentence, and how he's handling it all. Stick around, because this story is full of twists, emotional turns, and lessons about fame, freedom, and the price of choices. Who is Jah Cure? Before the headlines, before the courtrooms, there was just a young man from Hanover, Jamaica, named Cicature Alcock. The world would come to know him as Jah Cure. His story started like many reggae artists, small-town beginnings, a big voice, and dreams that stretched far beyond his island roots. Growing up surrounded by the sound of roots reggae and dancehall, Jah Cure had that old-school spirit mixed with something new. His voice was pure honey, smooth, soulful, and always packed with emotion. By the late 1990s, he was one of the most talked about new artists in Jamaica. His first big break came when reggae legend Beres Hammond took him under his wing. That partnership turned out to be gold. Together they created tracks that blended love, spirituality, and struggle. Songs like Longing For and Love Is became instant anthems for anyone who's ever been heartbroken but still holding on to hope. Jah Cure's voice had a way of making you feel seen, like he was singing your pain back to you with compassion. But fame didn't come easy. He was only in his early 20s when he first tasted success, and in Jamaica's music scene, that spotlight burns bright and fast. Jah Cure stood out because of his ability to blend deep roots vibes with a softer, romantic sound that crossed borders. He was never afraid to talk about love in a culture that often prized toughness. That honesty earned him a loyal fan base, especially among women, who called him the reggae heartthrob. Then came the turning point that would change everything. In 1999, at just 21, Jah Cure's rising career was derailed when he was arrested and convicted on serious charges. He spent years behind bars, but instead of fading away, he somehow kept his music alive. That's the part that makes his story so unique. He recorded songs while in prison that went on to become hits. Fans said his voice sounded even more emotional from behind the walls. When he was released in 2007, the comeback was massive. His album True Reflections, A New Beginning, wasn't just music, it was therapy. It told a story of redemption and faith. For a while, it looked like Jah Cure was ready to rewrite his narrative, the troubled artist who found his peace and learned from the past. His concerts sold out across the Caribbean and Europe. His voice was on radio stations, playlists, and at every beach party. Critics even started comparing him to Bob Marley in terms of emotional depth. But fame can be a double-edged sword. With every comeback, there were also whispers about his temper, his personal life, and how much of the old Jah Cure was still there. Still, fans loved him for his rawness. He sang about love, pain, and redemption because he had lived all three. That's what made him more than just another reggae artist. He was living proof that music can keep your spirit alive, even in the darkest moments. But as we'll see, the same fire that made his music powerful may also have fueled the trouble that followed him. The legal history. What led here? Jah Cure's legal history reads like a long, complicated reggae song, deep, emotional, and sometimes offbeat. His first major legal trouble came at the peak of his early fame. In 1999, while still in his 20s, he was convicted in Jamaica for robbery and rape and sentenced to 15 years in prison. He served 8 years before being released in 2007. The conviction has always divided fans. Some believe he was unfairly targeted by police during a time when Jamaica's music scene was under tight scrutiny. Others saw it as a tragic fall from grace. Either way, it changed the direction of his life forever. Most people would expect a conviction like that to end a career, but Jah Cure pulled off something almost unheard of. He became even more famous behind bars. He recorded hit songs from his prison cell, with limited studio access and the help of producers who believed in his talent. Tracks like True Reflections, Longing For, and Love Is kept his name alive and turned him into a symbol of resilience. It was as if the music itself became a lifeline, keeping him connected to the outside world. When he finally walked free in 2007, he was celebrated like a national hero returning home. For a while, Jah Cure seemed to be rewriting his story. His post-prison music leaned heavily into themes of forgiveness, spirituality, and hope. Fans thought they were watching a man who had learned from his mistakes and wanted to inspire others. Unfortunately, trouble followed him into the next chapter of his life, this time far from home. Fast forward to 2021, and Jah Cure found himself in Amsterdam, where he was performing at a concert organized by a local promoter. What started as a business trip ended with another arrest, this time for stabbing the promoter after an argument over payment. Dutch police took him into custody, and the incident shocked his fan base. The idea of the rehabilitated artist suddenly cracked. The legal system in the Netherlands handled the case seriously. He was charged with attempted manslaughter, which under Dutch law is just one step below attempted murder. Jah Cure admitted to stabbing the man, but claimed it was self-defense, and that he had acted out of fear. The prosecutors saw it differently. They argued that he planned the attack, and that his violent history made the case even more severe. In 2022, the court sentenced Jah Cure to 6 years in prison for attempted manslaughter. While it was a serious punishment, it could have been worse, and for a while, it seemed like that would be the end of it. But prosecutors were not satisfied. They appealed the sentence, arguing that it was too light for the level of violence involved. This appeal set the stage for the current drama, the same case, new court sessions, and a request for nearly 10 more years behind bars. For Jah Cure, this is not just another legal battle. It is the moment that could define his legacy. Once again, he is sitting in a cell, waiting for a verdict that could determine the rest of his life. His fans are divided, the music industry is watching, and everyone is wondering if this time, the singer known for redemption songs has finally reached the end of his road to freedom. What prosecutors are asking for now? When most people hear that prosecutors want to add 9 more years to someone's sentence, their first question is usually, why? In Jah Cure's case, the answer comes down to how the Dutch justice system works and how serious they believe his actions were. His original sentence was 6 years for attempted manslaughter, which is already a heavy charge. But prosecutors in the Netherlands argue that the court went too easy on him. They now want the sentence increased to 9.5 years, based on what they call the intent to kill. Let's break that down in simple terms. In the Netherlands, attempted manslaughter means you tried to harm someone, but without clear proof, you wanted them dead. Attempted murder, on the other hand, means there was intent. You meant to kill. The prosecutors claim Jah Cure's actions in the 2021 stabbing went beyond a fight that got out of hand. They believe he prepared for violence, carried a knife with purpose, and attacked with deadly force. That argument is what gives them grounds to push for a longer sentence. During the appeal hearing, prosecutors presented their version of events. They said Jah Cure arranged a meeting with the promoter, got angry about not being paid, and then stabbed him in the stomach hard enough to puncture an organ. They said he walked away while the man was bleeding on the street. Jah Cure's defense team countered by saying he acted out of panic, that the situation escalated suddenly, and that he never meant to seriously harm anyone. The difference between those two stories is what's at the heart of this new sentencing push. Prosecutors say his behavior shows planning, not panic. They also argue that his past violent history makes the case more severe. They want the court to see him not as a man who lost control once, but as someone with a pattern of aggression. This latest hearing has grabbed headlines across reggae circles and social media. Fans who once saw Jah Cure as a reformed man now feel conflicted. Some are defending him, saying he's being unfairly targeted in a foreign country that doesn't understand his background. Others believe the system is finally holding him accountable after years of questionable behavior. Either way, the case has turned into more than a simple legal matter. It's a debate about justice, redemption, and whether people really change. If the court agrees with prosecutors, Jah Cure could spend nearly 10 more years in prison, which would make his total sentence one of the longest ever given to a Jamaican musician abroad. The appeal verdict is expected soon, and until then, he remains behind bars in the Netherlands. The prosecutors have made their case clear. They want the punishment to reflect what they call a deliberate act of violence. They say the original 6-year sentence didn't fit the severity of the crime. For them, it's about sending a message that even celebrities are not above the law. For Jah Cure, it's another test of patience and faith. His music always talked about love conquering pain, But this time, love might have to wait until the courts are done making their final move. Jah Cure's reaction, breaks down moment. When the news broke that prosecutors wanted 9 more years, Jah Cure reportedly broke down in court. The man once called the King of Lovers rock was seen visibly emotional, his usual calm replaced by disbelief and exhaustion. It was a raw moment, a reminder that fame does not shield anyone from reality. Reports say he covered his face, shaking his head, as prosecutors read their arguments. It looked like the weight of his choices finally came crashing down on him. For fans, seeing Jah Cure like that hit hard. This is someone known for singing about love, hope, and redemption. Watching him crumble under the pressure of another possible decade behind bars felt like seeing a piece of that message shatter. The breakdown was not just about fear of prison. It was about a man who has lived his entire adult life between freedom and confinement, never fully escaping the shadow of his past. People close to the case said that his reaction showed genuine emotion. Some saw it as a man realizing his mistakes. Others thought it was desperation, knowing his chances of freedom were slipping away. Either way, it was real. You could feel the sadness in the air, that mix of regret and helplessness that only shows up when there is no one left to blame. This breakdown also reminded people of the duality in Jah Cure's life. His songs are full of emotion, but so is his temper. He has always been passionate, whether in love, music, or anger. That same intensity that made his voice powerful might also have been his downfall. It is easy to forget that behind the voice is a person who has struggled with trauma, fame, and the constant pressure to live up to his own message. In interviews before his arrest, Jah Cure often talked about wanting peace, love, and spiritual growth. He said music was his therapy, his way to heal. But old wounds can reopen fast, especially when pride and pain meet in the wrong moment. His reaction in court could be seen as the breaking point of years of internal conflict. He was not just crying about time in a cell, he was crying about the time he had lost, the reputation he had damaged, and the version of himself he wanted to be but could not sustain. Outside the courtroom, the reaction was mixed. Some fans expressed heartbreak, posting clips of his performances with captions like, "Free Jah Cure." Others were less forgiving, calling it karma catching up. The internet can be cruel, and celebrity breakdowns often become memes before people realize the human cost behind them. But for those who grew up on his music, this moment felt personal. The image of Jah Cure breaking down shows that even the strongest personas can collapse under pressure. It is the moment the artist became just another man facing consequences. Whether you see it as tragedy or accountability, it is hard not to feel the weight of it. The voice that once sang about freedom now trembles under the sound of a verdict he cannot sing his way out of. Impact on career and music. For an artist like Jah Cure, whose voice has always been his ticket to survival, being locked up again hits harder than most people realize. His music has never just been about entertainment. It has been his therapy, his lifeline, and his confession booth. But this latest turn in his legal battles could silence that voice for years, and the ripple effect is already showing in his career. Since his arrest in 2021, Jah Cure's ability to perform, record, and tour has been completely halted. Before the incident, he was still performing across Europe and the Caribbean, pulling crowds that came for both nostalgia and new hits. His shows were emotional experiences, almost like spiritual gatherings, where fans sang along with eyes closed, letting the pain and love in his lyrics wash over them. Now, those fans are left waiting, not sure if they will ever see him on stage again. The industry has started to distance itself quietly. Promoters who once booked him regularly have turned their attention elsewhere. Collaborations that were rumored to happen in 2022 were canceled or shelved. Even radio stations have scaled back playing his newer material, focusing instead on his classic hits from the early 2000s. That's usually the first sign that an artist's brand is shifting from active legend to cautionary tale. Still, Jah Cure's music continues to live online. Streams of his older tracks have spiked since the news of the extended sentence request. It is the strange paradox of scandal. Bad news often brings new ears. People who never listened to his catalog are now curious, searching his songs to understand why he was once considered one of the most soulful voices in reggae. His streaming numbers tell a story of fascination mixed with sadness. Musically, Jah Cure's career has always been intertwined with pain. His debut album, recorded while incarcerated, was titled Free Jah Cure, which became both a personal plea and a rallying cry for fans. Every hit after that carried pieces of his story: redemption, heartbreak, and faith. This new chapter, though, threatens to overshadow all of it. For many, it is getting harder to separate the music from the man. Artists who once praised him are now staying silent, unsure how to respond. The reggae community, known for messages of peace and positivity, is wrestling with how to handle someone whose talent is undeniable, but whose actions keep crossing moral lines. Some see him as a fallen icon who can still find redemption. Others think he has used up his second chances. If there's one thing that keeps Jah Cure relevant, it's that emotional honesty that pours through every note he sings. Even now, people are replaying songs like Longing For and hearing them differently, not as love songs, but as cries for freedom. His art has always mirrored his life, and right now, that mirror shows pain, isolation, and regret. This latest legal blow could mark the end of Jah Cure's performing days for a long time, but knowing his history, it might also push him to create again from confinement. Whether the world is ready to listen is another story. For now, his legacy sits in limbo, caught between brilliance and self-destruction. Public and industry reactions. The announcement that prosecutors have sought an additional 9 years for Jah Cure's sentence has triggered an extensive wave of responses from both the public and the music industry. These reactions range from expressions of empathy and disappointment to outright condemnation. The discourse reflects not only the deep divisions within the fan base, but also broader questions surrounding accountability, justice, and the treatment of artists with legal histories. Within hours of the news breaking, social media platforms were inundated with commentary. Hashtags bearing the artist's name began trending, with fans sharing memories of his music and personal testimonials of how his songs had influenced their lives. Many expressed disbelief, describing the new legal developments as excessive or punitive. Supporters argued that Jah Cure's creative contributions and previous imprisonment had already demonstrated a form of penance. Some invoked spiritual or religious reasoning, suggesting that redemption should remain accessible regardless of past transgressions. Conversely, critics emphasized the seriousness of the charges and the importance of legal consequences. They maintained that fame should not shield individuals from accountability. A significant portion of the public discourse has been shaped by concerns regarding gender-based violence, rehabilitation, and the ethical responsibilities of public figures. This ongoing conversation has reignited broader debates within Jamaican society about how justice is perceived when intersecting with celebrity culture. The reggae industry itself remains deeply divided. Some artists have spoken out publicly in support of Jah Cure, calling for compassion and understanding. They cite his past struggles, particularly his previous incarceration and the personal transformation he claimed to have undergone afterward. Others, however, have taken a more cautious stance, distancing themselves from the controversy entirely. Record labels and event organizers have reportedly begun re-evaluating their associations with the artist, weighing potential backlash against long-standing professional relationships. International media coverage has further amplified these tensions. Outlets in Europe and the Caribbean have framed the situation as emblematic of the complexities surrounding celebrity rehabilitation and criminal justice. The Netherlands, where Jah Cure was originally convicted of assault, has seen renewed scrutiny of its judicial process and how it handles foreign nationals. Meanwhile, Jamaican commentators have noted that the case raises difficult questions about the global image of reggae music and its ongoing association with messages of love, peace, and redemption. Cultural analysts have pointed out that public reaction is not solely about Jah Cure himself, but about what he represents. His story encapsulates the intersection of artistry, masculinity, and morality in modern Caribbean culture. The artist's repeated legal troubles have forced many fans to reconcile their admiration for his music with discomfort over his actions. This dynamic mirrors a larger phenomenon seen in global entertainment industries, where public figures often occupy dual roles as both cultural icons and cautionary examples. The overall sentiment remains fluid, heavily influenced by ongoing media coverage and legal developments. As further information emerges, public opinion may continue to shift, revealing deeper insights into how societies process the fall of once revered artists. For now, Jah Cure's situation remains a focal point for discussions about justice, redemption, and the boundaries of forgiveness in both art and public life. What happens next? So, what's next for Jah Cure? The courtroom drama is far from over, and the next steps will determine how much time he could ultimately spend behind bars. Right now, the case is with the appeals court in the Netherlands. Prosecutors have asked for the sentence to be increased to 9.5 years, and the court will consider their request along with the defense's arguments. In simple terms, this means Jah Cure is waiting to see if the judges agree that the original 6-year sentence was too lenient. While the appeal is pending, Jah Cure remains in custody. The waiting game is brutal. Being confined while knowing your fate could change drastically is emotionally exhausting, even for someone who has spent time in prison before. Reports suggest that he is keeping his composure publicly, but behind the scenes, this period is likely filled with stress, reflection, and uncertainty. The defense has argued that Jah Cure acted out of self-defense and panic during the 2021 incident. They maintain that he did not intend to commit murder, and that his actions, while regrettable, do not justify a longer sentence. The lawyers are asking the court to consider his previous time served, his rehabilitation efforts, and his contributions to music. Essentially, they are arguing that another 9 years would be excessive and unfair. Prosecutors, on the other hand, are emphasizing intent and the seriousness of the stabbing. They argue that Jah Cure's actions were deliberate, and that the severity of the attack, combined with his past legal history, warrants a longer sentence. The appeal will force the court to weigh both sides carefully. If the judges side with the prosecution, Jah Cure could face nearly a decade in prison. If they side with the defense, he might see his original 6-year sentence upheld or receive a slightly adjusted term. Beyond the legal outcome, the appeal will likely impact his career. A longer sentence means delayed music projects, canceled tours, and a hiatus from public life. Even if he continues to release music while incarcerated, the logistical challenges are immense. Fans will have to wait, and the industry may adjust to new realities regarding collaborations, endorsements, and live events. There is also the question of public perception. Regardless of the appeal's result, Jah Cure's image has been affected. Supporters continue to rally for him, emphasizing his musical contributions and his struggle for redemption. Critics, however, see the appeal as confirmation that accountability is unavoidable, even for global stars. The verdict could either reinforce his legacy as a resilient artist or further complicate his reputation. Finally, international legal observers and fans alike will be watching closely. The outcome will likely set a precedent for how foreign artists are treated in legal systems outside their home countries. It will also give insight into how the courts balance celebrity status with accountability. For Jah Cure, the next chapter is uncertain, but it will be decisive. Why it matters. Bigger picture. Jah Cure's legal saga is more than just the story of one artist in trouble. It raises broader questions about justice, celebrity culture, and accountability. When someone like Jah Cure faces serious charges, it forces fans and the public to think about how fame intersects with the law. Can talent or reputation influence outcomes? Should redemption in the public eye count for anything in the courtroom? These are questions that go beyond one case and touch on universal debates about fairness and society's expectations. One angle to consider is celebrity accountability. Jah Cure's career has been shaped by both talent and controversy. Fans loved him for his honesty, his vulnerability, and the emotional depth of his music. They connected with him because he seemed relatable, someone who had made mistakes and was trying to find his way. But when actions cross certain lines, the public starts asking if forgiveness has limits. Jah Cure's current situation is a vivid reminder that fame does not grant immunity. Even icons must answer for their actions. The international aspect of this case adds another layer. Jah Cure is a Jamaican musician facing a Dutch court. Different legal systems, cultural norms, and media narratives all collide. The Dutch court system approaches crime and punishment differently from Jamaica, and that can influence public perception. Fans may feel protective, arguing that he is being treated unfairly abroad. At the same time, the international lens reinforces that actions have consequences regardless of nationality or celebrity status. Then there is the ripple effect on reggae music itself. Artists like Jah Cure are cultural ambassadors. His music represents a blend of personal struggle, spiritual reflection, and love. When headlines focus on legal battles rather than artistry, it reshapes how audiences perceive the genre. The case forces fans to separate the art from the artist, or, for some, to see them as inseparable. It also reminds aspiring musicians that talent alone cannot shield someone from consequences. Another perspective is the human element. Jah Cure's story highlights the struggle between redemption and relapse. Even after serving time for past crimes, mistakes can happen again. The emotional complexity of his situation reminds audiences that people are not one-dimensional. His fans feel empathy for the man, even while recognizing the gravity of his actions. This duality is what makes the story compelling and why it resonates beyond headlines. Finally, the bigger picture is about lessons for all of us. Jah Cure's case invites reflection on justice, accountability, and the cost of choices. It shows how society negotiates forgiveness, especially for public figures. It forces questions about morality, empathy, and fairness in a world where fame can sometimes blur the lines between right and wrong. In the end, whether Jah Cure's sentence is increased or stays the same, his story leaves an indelible mark. It reminds us that even legendary artists live in a world of rules, consequences, and human vulnerability. The headlines capture one moment, but the implications ripple far beyond the courtroom. His journey becomes a mirror for fans, the music industry, and society at large to consider what justice really means when talent, fame, and human error collide. Jah Cure's story is a mix of music, fame, and consequences, a reminder that even legends face real-world challenges. Whether you see him as a symbol of resilience or a cautionary tale, his journey sparks conversation about justice, redemption, and the price of choices. We'll be watching closely as the appeal unfolds, and no matter the outcome, it will shape his legacy for years to come. If you followed his story, share your thoughts in the comments, hit like if you learned something new, and subscribe to stay updated on the latest in celebrity news.